Hey everyone, it's Marianne from the New York City Organization of Public Service Retirees. Today I want to do a little bit of a recap of something Michael Mulgrew from the United Federation of Teachers said yesterday, April 9th, regarding our legislation, Intro 1096, in the City Council that would protect our retiree health care benefits. So let's get into this. This is the document that Mulgrew shared in an email last night. It says City Council updates. Mulgrew said that City Council Bill 1096, which would amend the administrative code of New York City in relation to protecting the vested health insurance coverage and contributions of retired New York City employees, is something he agrees with in theory. However, he said, the union's attorneys have warned that the bill is not in compliance with the Taylor Law and could prove problematic to the UFT members if it were approved. Now, this is kind of the same language that DC 37 is using. So I know, of course, they're using my Alan Klinger. So let's go into the next paragraph where it says, the Taylor Law says that no governmental entity can pass a law that changes the terms and conditions of the collective bargaining agreement, including health care, end quote, Mulgrew said. That provision of the Taylor Law is there to protect us. Now, this is his quote. At first, I thought he was quoting the Taylor Law. That's not in the Taylor Law. I'm going to show you what actually is in the Taylor Law and how he's misapplying the language. The problem he noted is if the Taylor Law is violated and the court lets that happen, the next mayor or governor can turn around and pass a law that hurts members that is allowed to do so because of that precedent. At this moment, passing this bill might feel good, he said, but we don't want to be in a position that 5 years from now, we're getting hurt by a precedent that was set by us. Now, what Michael isn't telling you is that, as you've heard us say, 12-126 was legislated by the city council. That legislation gave you health care. And a dozen times from 1967 through 2001, that legislation was amended to set a new floor every time the council wanted to increase reimbursement of Medicare B premiums, or they wanted to change what benefits they would give. If they were giving a benefit to a widow or widower, another line of duty person, another title or uniform person or civilian, 12-126 set the new floor. So today, widow benefits might have been in 1967 just police and fire. Then it was police, fire, and EMS. Then it was police, fire, EMS, corrections, police, fire, EMS, corrections, sanitation. You following me? It sets a new floor. Legislation. Now, collective bargaining agreement. I challenge any one of you to go through your collective bargaining agreements and start looking for a collective bargaining agreement that discusses your health care. And then if you do find a passage, I want you to read it because it does not do anything that he says it does. Your healthcare benchmarks are set in 12-126. You've seen me do this before. The Taylor Law, and this is the section of the Taylor Law that this is actually the main page I want to show you. The Public Employees Fair Employment Act, and there's a whole bunch of definitions, but let's start with the first one, the statement of policy, because that one's really important. It tells you what it does. So Section 200, Statement of Policy, the legislature of the state of New York declares that this is a public policy of the state, and the purpose of this act to promote harmonious cooperative relationships between the government and its employees to protect the public by assuring at all times the orderly and uninterrupted operations and functions of the government. These policies are best effectuated by granting to public employees the right of organization and representation, requiring the state, local governments, and other political subdivisions to negotiate with and enter into agreements with employee organizations representing public employees, which have been certified or recognized, encouraging such public employers and such employee organizations to agree upon procedures for resolving disputes, creating public employment relations board to assist in resolving disputes between public employees and public employers, and continuing the prohibition against strikes by public employees and providing remedies for violations of such prohibitions. Nowhere in that statement of policy are you seeing that it has anything to do with a retiree. And that is because the New York State Taylor Law does not cover a current retiree. We've gone over this before. Now, I want you to do your homework and go read this bill. I will make sure that in the description of this video, or at least in the comment section, in the first comment, I will put all of the links to these New York State Taylor Law and as well as the document I'm going to read to you next. So let's go to the next thing I want to show you. In regarding to his argument, 1096 would violate the Taylor Law. The Taylor Law generally prohibits governmental entities, New York City, New York State, a municipality, from unilaterally changing the terms and conditions of a collective bargaining agreement. This means that union contract, once it's in place, the governmental entity cannot amend it without the union's consent. I am retired. I don't have a union. I don't negotiate. I don't collectively bargain. I don't ratify contracts. They were supposed to uphold the agreement that was made to me. They didn't. That is on them. They should have respected what a retiree had. Now let's talk about benchmarks and floors. A benchmark like 12-126 HIP HMO. The 12-126 HIP HMO is a floor. It tells the city, this is your floor. We will pay up to this. The unions were free to negotiate above that, which they have, or below it. They can diminish it. For them is what they've been doing, but they cannot do it for a current retiree. Now, the reason why is they will present a contract with these either diminutions or improvements to their union members for ratification. It is up to the union members to ratify, vote it up or vote it down. But a current retiree doesn't do that. No retiree votes on contracts, and that's because they're not in the union. Now, one of the other floors that was set is the Triborough Amendment. So the Taylor Law was done in 1967. Triborough came in like 1982. And this is related to the Taylor Law, and it enforces the right that your municipality has to continue the terms of an expired contract until a new one is negotiated. And that is another protection that is in collective bargaining. But retirees don't have that. We're retired. And no matter what successor agreement comes, they cannot ratify or vote. Okay? So let's talk a little bit more about benchmarks. There are many examples where governments have passed laws that set a floor to protect workers, unions, employers, negotiate above that floor for benefits is what they're supposed to be doing, and many have over the decades. One example, like I said, is 12-126. Health insurance is guaranteed at a floor defined by the cost of the HIP HMO. A union can negotiate a bigger contribution from the city. Now, you know, from negotiating, all unions negotiate with the city to fund their welfare funds. The unions aren't just giving you your welfare fund benefits. They're actually negotiating with the city a dollar amount that the union will receive from the city to provide you with vision, dental, prescription, hearing, whatever. The more money they get from the city, the bigger the benefits they can give to you, the employee and the retiree. Now, some unions get like $1,500, some get $2,000, some get $2,700, $2,300. It is up to the union to do that negotiating. But what most of them became reliant on was pulling money out of the health insurance stabilization fund. Do you remember this video by Michael Mulgrew where he said, the city says, if we give them back that 20% plan, we'll give you that money for your welfare funds. And why would they want to do that? That way they have fixed costs and they know what their costs are going to be.
And UFT, other unions, because this is this MLC issue, but it's really about us saying, you know what, other unions may want to be involved with this process, but for us, it's not a may. We will be involved with this process. and knowing that 3 years from now, that there is no premiums on the table, because now the city has said, if you can do this, and if we can get the 20% back, we will absorb. We know that that $600 million that we were going to spend now is going to go into your welfare fund, the city's welfare fund, which serves us and pays for our benefits. And what does the city get out of that? They get a fixed cost. They know what their cost is for the next 3 years. And that's what is a great comfort to somebody running a city. This is the cost. It's not going to go up. This is it. But now it's really about us.
And so we were like in the middle of COVID. I think this was like 21 or 20, this was like 22, I think. And September 22. And he literally said, the city said, if you give us back that 20% plan, referring to our Medicare supplement, we'll give you that money for your welfare funds. They were selling off current retirees' Medicare benefits to finance them. What would be the point of having hearing, vision, or dental when you don't have major medical? Or you're forced into major medical managed care like a Medicare Advantage plan that doesn't provide you with health care when you truly need it, or puts the plan formation in their hands. What benefits them equitably in finances versus what you need and what you've had. They're going to diminish your benefits. And Michael Mulgrew can diminish benefits for retirees as long as he's diminishing them for employees equally. See, when that law called the moratorium law was passed, it was passed because, usually representatives of unions had brains and spines. And they would never diminish a benefit for a retiree because they would never diminish it for an employee who has to vote for them or support what they're doing. However, those days are long gone, that they were okay with diminishing a benefit for a retiree. Why? Because they're diminishing them for employees too. One example is 12-126, that health insurance is a guaranteed floor defined by the cost of the HIP HMO. We have to keep reminding you that. So while the union could negotiate a bigger contribution into the fund, the stabilization fund, they never did. As of like 1986, they negotiated like $35 million, and they never negotiated any more. Still today, or I guess still today, if they are still getting it from the city every year, we'd have to look, it was still $35 million. Why would you never increase what the city was putting into the stabilization fund? They never did. Every year, 35 million. In some years, they gave that up. So it does set a floor. Now, this is where these bigger contributions, the city into the stabilization fund, would have funded like the PICA plan or your welfare fund benefits for improved dental or improved vision, or your drug plan, and those are sponsored by your union, but they're paid for by the city. Okay, the city can't offer anything less than the HIP HMO would pay for. And when we won Campion, the first case we filed in 2021, that was really all about minimal protection, what the city has to pay up to as the benchmark. Other examples of minimums that were put in as setting a floor of benefits was like minimum wage. Minimum wage is set by law. The city has to pay, the state has to pay, federal government has to pay. This as a base, this as a floor. States are welcome, cities are welcome to negotiate above it. I mean, I think the federal wage is like and change. States have higher set base wages than that. Your floor can be whatever you set your floor to. Now, when we did 1096, we set a floor. The floor is what we've had for 60 years, no more and no less. We said, continue what we were promised and what we've had. Don't diminish it. You were free to negotiate above it, but they haven't. Other examples of creating floors in legislation would be overtime pay for workers who work beyond 40 hours, restrictions for child labor, workplace safety and health standards, FMLA. These are all floors to benefits. And you know that your unions can negotiate above them because they have. There's many floors that provide protection. So Michael Mulgrew and Beth Norton don't seem to know the Taylor Law, and our organization is set and prepared to litigate this against the unions if we have to, and we're ready. And I'm actually excited if they do, because we will prove once and for all that the people that did this, how they did this in the dark of night, actually violated the Taylor Law. Because the Taylor Law also sets a precedent as to what is an improper practice. Did the unions, largely the United Federation of Teachers and DC 37, commit an improper practice? Did the city commit an improper practice by encouraging the two largest unions with the heaviest weighted voting power in the MLC to leverage all the other unions and retirees, interfering in those unions' collective bargaining to finance their contracts? And I think the answer to that question will be yes. Why? Because under the Taylor Law, no union can interfere with another union's collective bargaining. And that's exactly what they did. So if Mr. Mulgrew wants to deflect, defer, whatever he wants to do, the New York State Taylor Law doesn't say what he says it does in this memo that he emailed out to members, which includes his statement that he made. Well, healthcare is a mandatory subject of bargaining. However, it was meant that no employer could unilaterally change the terms and conditions of bargaining without the employing organization, the representative organization, agreeing. Guess what? We're not employed and we don't have an employing organization. I rest my case. Again, Michael Mulgrew is full of shit. His in-house attorneys should probably go find another job because they're not worth their weight in salt. This is a ridiculous claim. Even the New York City Law Department memo that was given to the New York City Council and the mayor last year doesn't say this. So now I want to again remind you, here is the video of Alan Klinger saying our bill is not illegal. But if the city had to pay for us, it would be less than it would want to pay for them.
You have Harry or someone there from legal, maybe Alan, just explain it in further detail and expound upon how it's going to affect collective bargaining rights.
It freezes health benefits to where it was in December 31st. It obligates a Medigap supplement plan without saying how it would be paid for. And concern is that the city will then adversely impact other aspects of healthcare for actives and others because of that.
And so the one line in the legislation that speaks to it not doing that. What do you think the effect of that line is? It says it will not affect collective bargaining. Is that a throwaway line?
No, but it can't by itself determine what happens for actives. But what it'll do is put enormous financial pressure on what the city says to us it's willing to pay for actives if they have to pay so much more for retirees. That's how we interpret it.
Okay. I just wanted everybody to understand what it is, why we're saying that it has an impact on collective bargaining forward.
Yes.
To say that to the extent that it freezes retiree bargaining over health, the impacts on any savings that derive from retirees could impact our collective bargaining on actors. Is that correct?
Yes, I believe you have it right.
That's a wrap, folks. Have a great night.
Don't speak what you don't understand. The truth is not in your command. Don't shout about what you think is fake. The decision isn't yours to make. Don't lie about the way things are. Tall tales will take you very far. Don't scoff when they say it's the end. In this life, you know you can't pretend. The days pass by.